sucks to say, but from everything that I'm hearing from everybody who had the opportunity to check out the early previews, or now the people around the world who have had the opportunity to check this out, I've heard what I've heard, and I've come to the conclusion that, yeah, man, the one film that I was hoping this year would actually defy expectations, would actually be decent. There's something, right? Like, if you go back earlier this year, we talked about the trailers that came out, and I was, pretty excited based on what I seen, even though Joker 2019 is an encapsulated story. It's one of those things that didn't need a sequel. Nobody was asking for a sequel. It was a self-contained story, and a damn good one at that. But then when there was news that, Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, they're kicking the tires on potentially continuing the story of Arthur Fleck. And it's like, hey, if both of them are back and, they're going to have considerable creative control on it, there could be something there. You could continue on with it. And then we heard, okay, cool, there's going to be a Lady Gaga, and it's going to be a different take on Harley Quinn. It's like, okay, well, Harley Quinn is kind of insufferable, especially when it comes to big budget cinematic interpretations. Hey, if she fits into this mythos, it could be decent. Everything started piling up, and then you heard, oh yeah, it's going to be a sequel, and it's going to be a musical. And it's like, oh God, you're really testing my patience. But when those trailers came around, giving it the benefit of the doubt, and then you started to hear, oh, the ballooning budget, this thing's costing north of $200 million. Well, music licensing is expensive, but how much more big budget can you get? And now that we're hearing, or at least I'm hearing from the early reviews, that, yeah, there's like one big explosion. But outside of that, unless the 15 different musical numbers, which range anywhere from just properly singing a couple of bars to doing cheap impersonation of SoundCloud mumble rappers, they're just kind of talky singing through a couple catchy lines. Not really a musical. And all of the presumptive fear that, Joker could get sidelined for a Harley Quinn POV, that's not the fact. Actually, what we're hearing mostly is Lady Gaga's pretty good in it, and she's actually underutilized for what's there. But the big thing is, yeah, the performances are good. It's well directed. The cinematography is on point. It's just the story is ass, and it completely destroys the original, not too dissimilar to Blade Runner 2049, trash film that undermines the original. But that one, of course, you can headcanon away because that wasn't Ridley Scott who was directing that one. That was stupid Denis Villeneuve, who would go on to bigger and better things like the Dune franchise. Does anybody care? Like, there's a TV show that's coming out, and I'm sure that'll be good, because this year in media has been kind of ass when you take a look at it in totality. Because for as much as one of my favorite games of all time came out this year, like Hollywood, it's been full of crap. There's been a couple of good TV shows come out. House of the Dragon Season 2. I hear a lot of people like Shogun. There was The Gentleman series that came out that was also highly praised. So much so that they're now going to be making up new stories for a second and third season, which according to Russell T. Davies said that isn't the thing. That isn't how it works in Hollywood. Series don't get picked up until the conclusion, and it's only for the next subsequent season. So it's weird how that one works. But in general, it's been a pretty forgettable year. And there isn't one. Like, I might be forgetting something, but I've been talking about Hollywood releases, and yeah, there's been a couple of billion-dollar films, and maybe Inside Out 2 is good, but everything that I hear about a proper breakdown of Deadpool and Wolverine is, it just kind of, craps all over the legacy of those two characters. But hey, at least it doesn't hate the fans, and it's better than what else is out there. When you got to drag in those arguments to justify why you think something is good, maybe you just like a bad movie. And that's fine. Well, I'm looking down at my media collection, and I can see quite a few different trash movies that I'm at least a little bit partial to. I would say I even have one in the form of, the second best James Bond is one of those trash movies, but hey, that's fine. That's fine. We all like bad things. Just don't have to say that they're good. But that's the thing with Joker, Folie, Deux. Nobody's saying this is good. Everybody is trying to make excuses for it. Well, Todd Phillips really didn't want to make the sequel. Well, here's the thing, man. Is anybody holding them at gunpoint? Okay, did Warner Brothers roll up the Brinks truck and say, hey, if you don't take this delivery right here, we're just going to go down the street and drop it off at somebody else's place? If you really didn't want to do it, you didn't have to do it. Or if you were going to take the job, could have at least done something good instead of burn down your legacy or simply cement you're the guy who can do a one-off. But a sequel, it just really isn't your thing. Like, this is the guy who hit a home run with the original Hangover, and then Hangover 2. I seen that shit in the theaters, and brother, that stuff sucked. I didn't even bother with Hangover 3, and there's a lot of revisionism on that one. People saying, well, actually, that's better. I remember the reception of that one at the time, and it was absolute ass. It's kind of like the way that the reviewers are going about this right now, how, oh, the original Joker, oh, the 2019 one, oh, it was so great, but it's so funny, right? Because we have this Rolling Stone article pulled up right here. Yeah, Folie Deux has a message to fans. Go F yourselves. Kudos to this follow-up to the $1 billion grossing hit for delivering something more than a carbon copy of the Angry Young Clown original. But who exactly is this musical sequel for? So you're applauding this absolute self-contained canon-destroying tripe. Meanwhile, back at the time, you were writing stories about how this was going to incite violence, how this was just simply out there to pander to the incels. Because that's what the media was doing back before Joker made over $1 billion on a $55 million budget. It was a smash hit by every conceivable metric. This one, this time around, not so much. Not so much. Let's take a little look. This review right here from Rolling Stone, the beacon of honest journalism. He's been called the Clown Prince of Crime, a first-round contender for best Batman bad guy of all time, the supervillain IP with the same amount of brand recognition as his Cape Crusader arch nemesis. For most actors, he's an excuse to go ham, or to extremely ham it up. Oh yeah, even going back to some of the early iterations with Cesar Romero. Go ahead and take that 100 times over, compare that to Jared Leto's. Oh my god, awful interpretation. But yeah, it's also provided two of the most memorable performances, full stop, in the past 20 years with Heath Ledger and with the original Joker with Joaquin Phoenix's interpretation. Yeah, I guess that's one way to put it. You know, you can have one overrated actor in Jared Leto. It's like, how much more can you coast one performance in Requiem for a Dream to compensate for just your over-the-top nonsense for the past 20 years at this point? Back to poorly doing emo music. But anyways, for Joaquin Phoenix and director Todd Phillips, the character was a chance to play around with decades of comic book mythology and turn him into God's lonely bozo. No. And here's another reason that a lot of people were big mad about this, because remember, cast your minds back to when the original came out in 2019. Superhero films, they were still hot. This was off the tail end of the year that concluded the MCU for all intents and purposes with Endgame. Everything was hot. Superhero films were the talk of the town. But of course, at that point in time, all of the critics were out there saying, oh, DC with your issues with Zack Snyder, you're too goddamn dark, grim, crying, screaming, and pathetic. We need something jazzy. We need something upbeat. Todd Phillips had an idea for a film and simply tried to sneak a real movie into a comic book movie, and that sent a lot of people into the tizzy, or rather into a tizzy, with that description of the film he created. And then, of course, that being taken as a slight against Marvel and their unbridled success, if it wasn't for people just simply turning their nose up at the fact that, oh, this is one of those incel movies. Oh, there's just going to be a lot of violence. Oh, it's just a carbon copy of King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. It's everybody's, all of these critics' minds are just so brain rotted to the point where you can't actually see a film for what it is. You need to think that it's something plus something. But anyways, yes, an amalgamation of anti-heroes that carbon date back to the Carter era. Regardless, the Joker was always an all-purpose agent of chaos, but what he really wanted to do was sing. Well, no, dancing was very much intrinsic to his original character back in the first and only Joker film, if we're going to be completely honest. It was the point in time in the demarcation in the movie that showed Arthur Fleck has changed as an individual, and he had started to live again, if you will. Which is why the idea and the concept of this being a musical, it seemed a little bit of a reach, but you could see where it could kind of potentially work. But it was, of course, going to be up against it now, because we can go ahead and cast our minds to a 2024 landscape where definitely, if everybody was thinking that DC was too dour and mired in a too much ambiguity, well, anyhow, so many things can change, but yet so many things stay the same 5 years on. who the hell knows what James Gunn is doing out there, okay? Like, specifically with Batman. Because as it sits right now, you got Matt Reeves' Batman 2, which is supposed to come out 2 years from now. Sure, whatever. You've got the success of the Penguin spin-off right now on HBO Max, which is one of the biggest TV shows going right now. So what do you do with that success? And then, of course, you have announced The Brave and the Bold, which is going to be an older Batman, which Matt Reeves' younger Batman. Don't know how that's going to work together. And then you just announce a dynamic duo animated spin-off or something like that, where you have Dick Grayson, the first Robin, teaming up with the second Robin, Jason Todd. Like what the hell is going on? We don't even have a proper DCU cast Batman, but you got all of these spin-offs. Like, what is going on over there? Might have actually found a more convoluted scenario than you had with, the end of the Snyder reign. Yes, there's the difference, but the similarity is people are wanting something brighter. People are wanting something a little bit more optimistic, not so nihilistic as the way that this film is playing out. Like, I know the spoilers. I'm not going to spoil it in case you want to see it. I wouldn't know why. Everything that I'm hearing leads me to believe that there is no way in hell this could get a recommendation. And that's more or less the sentiment that's out there. And it really does suck, because I wanted this to be good. So many people wanted this to be good, but nobody's going to see it, man. Like, that idea of making $1 billion, hell, that idea of making $335 million domestically really ain't gonna happen, because I got my local cinema pulled up here, okay? And this has been, quite a common sentiment out there. And this is, the Thursday screening, right? Thursday, 10 o'clock. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit of a boutique screening, but, what, 4 seats? 4 seats in the entire theater, and this is the only theater that is playing this film right now in a city of 50,000 people with a service area of 100,000 people. 4 people are willing to go check this out. Even still, like, we got the Friday numbers pulled up, and yeah, the 6:45. So what? Theoretically, the premiere show. Yeah, 9 tickets are sold. Okay, but what about 7:15? 6? 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. Maybe that'll be the what? Not a damn ticket sold. Nobody's going to see this, bro. Which is why the projections are absolutely in the dumps. The comparisons that are being made out there, it's opening weekend. Well, let's just take a look. What's it projecting to be? Okay, the R-rated crime drama. Well, it was based on the ubiquitous Batman villain. Talking about the original. It's basically Taxi Driver, a king of comedy because Robert De Niro in it, right? Directed by Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix. Yep, blah, blah, blah. They're all back. But yeah, the second film, which opens in theaters on Friday, but that entire structure has changed. But the follow-up bringing back Phoenix as Arthur Fleck and introducing Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. Tracking to collect between $50 and $65 million from 4,100 theaters. Yeesh. Joker 2 is expected to perform far better than at the international box office, with estimates between $80 and $85 million over the weekend. But yeah, I'd imagine we're going to be coming back to this one, because I'm following this one because it's really disappointing, man. I really wanted this to be good. A lot of people wanted this to be good. It's just not. It's really not. And like I said, I'm going to be light on spoilers. Might drop a few more on Monday or Tuesday, whenever the hell we get around to doing this. The numbers officially come in, so probably Tuesday. Check in then, I'd imagine. It's spiteful. It's spiteful and dour. That's not what anybody's looking for right now. And it really does harken back to those original takes that truly reinforce people's opinions that this didn't need a sequel, and that Hollywood, whenever they get the opportunity to, whenever they work their tendrils in, you can just dismiss it wholesale. That sucks, but hey, you're always gonna have the first one. Don't have to make the second one canon. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.